Hello, and welcome to the Executive Presence Spotlight series, where we shine a light on how executive presence is actually generated. So far, we've been going over the definition of executive presence, which is executive presence is the ability to inspire confidence that you can lead well in a given situation. I'll give it one more time. Executive presence is the ability to inspire confidence that you can lead well in a given situation. So the obvious question after that is, well, how does that happen? Why would people be inspired to be confident that I can lead well? And in order to answer that, we've been going over the 6 degrees of executive presence, which are different states of being, which inspire confidence in others that you will be able to lead well. So far, we've gone over PRESEC. So they kind of spell out presence, that's intentional. The first one is proactive, right? Anticipating actions and being prepared. Then we went over resolute, right? Having like that firm determination. We talked about equanimity, right? Which is like sort of being able to stay calm even when things are going crazy, right? And then we talked about stillness, right? Which is a little bit different from equanimity. Stillness is just about being still until it's time to move, right? So not just, moving around to move. And then we talked about being engaged. So when a leader is engaged, they hear more problems come to them because people know that these problems will be solved and that they will take them seriously. So today we're going to take a detour before we get to the last of the 6 degrees of executive presence. And we're going to talk about some sort of myths or misunderstandings about executive presence. I use the letter N and I say it's not what you think. So let's find out a couple sort of misunderstandings about executive presence. And the reason why I think that's important is because sometimes when we truly believe something and it's not right, it can lead us astray and it can prevent us from understanding the actual thing. So that's actually the premise of a podcast I started recently called The Big Lie, where each episode I have a guest that comes on which shares, and each guest shares the particular lie that they believe like for so long, maybe that, most of their life. And once they realized it was a lie, everything changed for them, right? Because they were able to sort of see the truth. So let's go over some of these sort of myths or lies about executive presence. The first one is executive presence is not a guarantee of success, right? I just want to be very clear that executive presence doesn't connote value or intelligence or deservedness, right? All executive presence is when you have it, you have this ability to inspire people to be like, yeah, let's follow this guy or let's follow this gal. That's all it is. You could be the most immoral, most foolish, most whatever. It doesn't mean you're the best person for the job. It doesn't mean you have the best expertise. What it does mean is you are just really great at getting people to follow you, right? That's all it is. And so it's not a good or a bad thing, but I just want to distinguish because often people think like, well, when I get this certain title or when I get a degree or I accomplish something, all of a sudden I'll have executive presence. Total waste of your time, right? None of those things directly affect your executive presence. They only work on people who somehow those things, they allow themselves to believe that that's the type of person that they want to follow, but they don't generate in any real organic way based on who you are and the way you are in the world. They don't really generate executive presence. So it's important to understand that. So you don't chase after titles, degrees, a nicer car, nicer clothes, lower voice, better public speaking, whatever. It's really important you understand that so you don't go down the wrong road. So the second thing that I want to share is executive presence is not in you, right? You might be wondering, well, what the heck does that mean, Joe? Where is it if it's not in me, right? And that's part of the problem. People think of executive presence almost as it's like a card you carry in your wallet and push, you take it out and everyone's like, wow, look, they've got the executive presence credit card, right? It's not that. And the reason why I say that is if you think about presence, right? Fundamentally, what that means, it's how someone feels about you, right? And that is not just inside you. That occurs in that space between you and the other person and what's being generated. And, some people might want to think of it as energy. Other people, might not like the energy metaphor, but regardless, it's really in between you and the person. It's that rope, it's that relationship between you and the other person. That's where the executive presence lies. And this is true because that you may have executive presence with some people, right? And with others, you may have none. And you may be thinking to yourself, how is that possible? I'm the same person. I'm just as caring. I'm just as attentive. I'm just as well spoken. I'm just as well dressed. I have the same title. I have the same name, right? That's because none of that matters, right? The only thing that matters is what's generated between you and that particular individual. So that's what I mean when I say it's not in you. And the reason why that's important to know is because if you believe it is something in you, right? If it's something you can just train and get a new skill, like being able to do the Rubik's Cube or hit a tennis forehand or ride a bike or a unicycle, right? Then you will spend a lot of time and maybe a lot of money trying to learn these things, which actually have very little to do with generating executive presence. And the third thing I'll share with you is executive presence is not a moral judgment, right? Executive presence doesn't go to the person who is the most moral, right? And deserves to lead and deserves to follow. And it also doesn't necessarily go to the person who is least suited and maybe leads people astray, right? You often hear people talk about things like dark charisma, and you think about these like cult leaders or people who lead people astray or steal their money. They are undoubtedly charismatic, and they do undoubtedly have executive presence, and they may use these things to really hurt their followers or people who believe in them. Does that mean executive presence is bad? No, it's just a tool. It's something that you are able to generate. The morality lies in the user, right? So what are you using that tool for? Are you using it to build others up, or are you using to tear them down, or maybe just build yourself up at the expense of others? And the reason why I share this is sometimes people think, well, oh, I don't want to be charismatic. I don't want to have executive presence because I see people like that and they are not the type of character or person that I want to be. And so what I want to share with you is that's entirely up to you, right? That is their choice to use the executive presence in a way that perhaps would not be your choice. Your choice is entirely up to you. So there's nothing that's gonna happen where all of a sudden you generate more executive presence and now all of a sudden, you turn into like the Emperor in Star Wars and you're like power hungry. So don't be afraid of your executive presence. In and of itself, there's no morality to it. If you are a moral person, then you will continue to follow your morals. If you are immoral, then you're going to continue. We're just going to be who we are. So don't let that dissuade you from pursuing it or seeing the value in it. So in our next episode, we're going to talk about perhaps what's maybe the most obvious of the 6 degrees of executive presence, which is confidence, right? If people don't have confidence in you, I'm sure you'd agree you can't really do very well in inspiring. If you don't have confidence in yourself, you're not really going to do very well in inspiring other people to have confidence in you. So if you're interested in exploring any of these issues more in depth in the 6 degrees of executive presence or sort of the illusions, I cover all of this and more in my book, Unlock Your Executive Presence, Feel Like a Boss, available on Amazon.com. So if you're interested, check it out. I will share the links in the notes to the video. My name is Joe Kwon, the Connection Counselor. Remember, you can change your life one connection at a time. Thank you. For more information about how to elevate your career, go to connectioncounselor.com for my blog, podcast, and free guides. If you'd like to find out more about how to make executive presence work for you or your team, email me at joe@connectioncounselor.com. Thank you.